Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙀 Iyer. Today I have with me Lt General Ravi Shankar, and we're going to discuss our good neighbor Pakistan, its economy, the IMF loan that is coming, and also the resurgence of Imran. And to talk about this, let's welcome our guest of the evening, Lt General Ravi Shankar. General Ravi Shankar, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel, sir.
Namaskar, and thanks a lot for calling me over once again on the show. And I wish all the viewers a very good evening or a good day wherever they are. And I must say that you've chosen a very interesting topic, Pakistan, and it's what's happening there. I think the general international worry is, will Pakistan go Sri Lanka way? That's a genuine worry for us in India also. The difference between the two is that Pakistan is 10 times the population of Sri Lanka. So if Pakistan goes the Sri Lanka way, we have a mega problem on our hands with international repercussions. So I think with this we can start. And go ahead.
Yeah, so General Ravi Shankar, the one thing that not many have discussed, but it is kind of being talked about in hushed tones, is the unexpected victory of Imran Khan's party in the by-elections. And this also lends credence to the fact that not all of the Pakistani army is along a single or around the same page. There appears to be some dissensions in the ranks. Some seem to be openly supporting Imran Khan, and people say that that's in the lower strata of the army. The upper strata is one way. These kind of divisions, how do you see this thing play out? Say there is general elections for the entire country. Do you think the army will still be able to select its next prime minister, sir?
Well, first let's look at the
Yeah.
general political scene within, and then I'll touch upon the army. See, in the recent by-elections, Imran Khan won 14 or 15 out of the 20 seats which were up for grabs. Uh, this was generally expected because while the new government was trying to get its feet to govern the state, Imran Khan was also already on the election trail. And he had very shrewdly painted himself as a victim. See, whatever the state of Pakistan today, economically or politically or internationally, is thanks to Imran Khan and his hybrid regime. He had left it in an awful state. But since he was ousted, he's played the victim card. He's called this government a imported government. He's called this government, it's some kind of independent struggle which he's talking of. So there are, he's turned the tables on this government, where this government was, criticizing him for bad economy and all that. Now they are defending it. And this fellow is saying, why did they take over when they couldn't handle the system? I was handling it better than them. I mean, he's got his own logic, but it is appealing to people. All right. Now, in this condition, his winning those seats in Punjab were almost, I felt it was almost on the cards, and it came true. Now, after that, it was expected if he gets 14 seats, that was a magic number, his party will be in power in Punjab. If that happened, PML would have no province of Pakistan in power to back the central government. Everyone else would be with either PTI or PPP. So these people have done some herapheri or whatever you call skullduggery, political skullduggery, when it came to the Punjab government, and they blocked out PTI. And they've got assumed power, right? And they are very clear that they'll hold on to power at any cost. Imran Khan is very clear that he'll get the elections at any cost. Now he's gone to the court again, to Supreme Court, and he's told the Supreme Court, he virtually want the Supreme Court to take action as per what he wants. He's pressurizing them. He's pressurizing them through the street also. The PML government has instituted an inquiry to see where this fellow got foreign funding from, Imran Khan and all that. So they're actually at loggerheads, right? And they want to play it for keeps. Now, this is where it is. Now you spoke about the army. The army is split. From what you can see, there's a section of the army, veterans, serving people, everyone who are with Imran Khan. There is one lot who are with the PMLN. So they really are not in a position to influence elections. It won't happen. And more than that, there's some kind of a tussle within the army who will be the next chief. So at the higher level. So the army is involved politically here, and it's got problem a division within themselves. There's a competition amongst themselves. In all this, it's possible who will select or elect the next chief. That's the first thing. Who will appoint the next chief? Come November, if there is no elections held and this government becomes a lame duck government, so that's also up for grabs. And so there are a lot of things, right? A complete political uncertainty is ruling. If you ask me what's going to happen next, there's going to be, I think, violence is on the cards, the way I look at it. Though Imran Khan has said, no, don't go for violence and all that. But I don't see his party not becoming violent if things don't go his way. Right? They'll take to the streets. They'll ensure that the elections are held. That's what it is. If they have to ensure elections are held, there has to be violence. And they will not hesitate to use radical forces. Remember, Imran Khan is called the Taliban Khan also. Right?
Yes,
And
yes.
he had a good truck with the TLP, Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, which has got good following. It's got a good vote bank. And if he gets that guy, the TLP on his side, then this PLN government will have a tough time. Of course, at the face of it, it appears that the army is backing this PMLN government, right? And we also have to remember that Imran Khan has been talking very disparagingly about the army. He's called them neutrals, and he's gone to the extent of saying "janwar neutral hote hain," so which is so all that. So
He's a real
the
rabble rouser, sir. I've seen that
no,
speech.
no, whether he's a rabble rouser or not is not the issue. The thing which we have to take into account is that the Pakistan media, a paper like Dawn, has said today Pakistan has a grassroots leader who has arrived. They're looking at him as the future grassroots leader of Pakistan, who has that support to come in. Whether he's a rebel rouser or not, well, that's a different story. Now a person like this comes up. He's burnt Pakistan's bridges with America. He's not too happy with, the Chinese are also not too happy with him. Right? He has got no clue of economics. If he comes into power, what happens? If he doesn't come into power, he'll be on the streets and he'll not let this government function. There'll be political uncertainty, especially after this turnover in Punjab. And if there's political issues in the air, then the economy won't revive. No one will win. No, anyone anyway will not invest. If there's political uncertainty, even that will not happen. Even IMF might backtrack. No one will roll over a loan or give a loan. So there is chaos. That is foreseen. And we have to remember, if you thought Sri Lanka collapse was great, that was just 22 million people. This is 220 million people, 10 times. And it's a nuclear state. So this Pakistan going down is a catastrophe for international purposes, for many reasons. And if this politics goes that way, collapse is not far off.
General Ravi Shankar, with your permission, I want to make a few announcements.
Yeah.
These are in and around PGurus personalities. First off, viewers, Abhijit Iyer Mitra's Twitter account was taken down for a few hours. It should be back up anytime now. So it's not like it was suspended. So I just wanted to give you that update. And please like this video, because this is something that very, very important. We are going to cover areas that perhaps you will not find in MSM, or rather they will find it after we do, which is normal. And then as far as Karthik Gopinath FIR quashing case is concerned, it has not been, it's not come up in front of the judge. Somehow the timing isn't working. We still don't have any update, as if nothing has moved yet. And the last one is, today is a double header. This is the first of the double header. We have MR Venkatesh talking about the economies of some states mirroring that of Sri Lanka. So those are the 4 statements or announcements I wanted to make. I really apologize for taking valuable time out of this one, but there were just too many things that were happening. So I thought I'll let everybody know what is going on. So General Ravi Shankar, you mentioned that there is a possibility that if there is elections down the road, let's say national elections, that the army, is going to find it difficult to select its choice because of the fact that, they themselves don't know who will support which candidate at which booth. I mean, evidently the last time Imran Khan was elected or selected, whichever way, there were army people standing in every polling booth.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. You see, I mean, it's so. If you heard Imran Khan, I've heard a lot of his speeches. If in an earlier time, if Imran Khan had spoken what he had spoken, and the army was strong, like in the earlier times, you must remember, the army hung a prime minister, Mr. Bhutto. They've assassinated. I mean, everyone knows, it's an open secret, that it was Pakistan army who was behind the assassination of Benazir Bhutto. And the dictators have come in and just thrown out the civilian prime ministers like at the drop of a hat. For the first time, I don't see this army doing anything. They're so weak. Either they're weak, or the divisions are so much they don't know whom to support. They've gone neutral. Actually, they are in neutral gear.
General Ravi Shankar, we touched briefly about the fact that Pakistan is a nuclear state. Now, having nuclear power is one thing, but what kind of a technology does Pakistan possess? Is it something that is on par with other countries' development? Are they 10 years behind, 20 years behind? What are your thoughts, sir?
See, they have got this nuclear technology through the AQCAN network long back. So there's no this thing that they can't produce whatever they have. Plus, they have China to support them, right? So whether the issue with nuclear technology and power is that it doesn't matter whether it is 1-year-old or 20-year-old technology. The technology is almost current. And nuclear power and nuclear weapons, even if they're 100 years old, have a devastating effect. So that doesn't matter, right? And they've got that technology, the missile technology, everything from North Korea once a long back. And they've developed it further. And I have no doubt in my mind, with the kind of collusive support from China, they would have refined it. Plus, a lot of funding, at one point of time when Bhutto, he was peddling the Islamic bomb, getting funding from the Islamic world at a time when China was still a pariah, international pariah. So I don't see whether at any point of time that they've suffered for funds due to various reasons which I've said. And their technology, whether it's totally up to date or not, is not the issue. But they have what they want, enough to destabilize the region and the world.
So that is one ticking challenge, that whenever you think about doing anything in Pakistan, that there is this thing, sword.
Yeah, this nuclear overhang will be there. Yeah.
Yes. So now let's take a look at what is happening with the IMF loan. What
Hmm.
I read was that a few weeks ago there was in principle agreement. The loan was supposed to be at 3 billion or something. It has come down. It's between 1.8 billion to 1.3 billion, somewhere in that ballpark, General Ravi Shankar. I mean, this will tide them over for 1 month, maybe 6 weeks at the most. Then what? Then what happens?
You see, this is an extended loan facility, finance facility. The total amount was about 6 billion. They're trying to make it to 7 billion. Some part had come earlier, and the IMF had halted that loan because, see, IMF had some conditions laid down. They said no subsidy, no populist measures, all that, uh, tax benefits. Imran Khan had done exactly the opposite. He he cut down, slashed fuel prices. He cut down electricity prices. He instituted a lot of tax benefits to people. All the elites and the armed forces got a salary hike at that point of time. And taking all this into consideration, IMF had stopped this loan. This is recommencement of that loan. And it's only part of that old loan. It's about 1.3 billion or 1.4 billion, whatever it is. Like you said, it will last 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks max. After that, what? Right. Now, what? I mean, it's a very genuine question. We have to understand if the political instability has just got multiplied in this Punjab election and the way this whole thing has gone. So, no one will give a loan. Now, it is doubtful whether this IMF program of 1.3 billion also might get derailed. If tomorrow there's political chaos, which will be there, knowing what Mr. Imran Khan has done so far, so that might get derailed completely. If that get derailed, the situation will go down straight away. That is one part of the story. The Let's look at it a little beyond that. Okay, even if they get 1.3 billion, like you said, it's after 6 weeks, what after 8 weeks, what? Look at the macro picture. This is a population of 2.2, 20 million, growing at 2.4%. They say that this population will go up to 300 million by 2050 or 2030. I mean, not very far, right? In this land, cannot
Sustain that much.
sustain this much. They don't have water. They are under climate. Uh, you know, Climate change is affecting them badly. As it is, they don't have enough storage. They don't have storage even for 1 month. In a state like in USA has water storage of 900 days, right? These people don't have a 30 days. Even in our country, we have over 100 odd days. Okay, that's the differential. So their crops are bad. Their agriculture has gone down. 5 years back, they were a food surplus nation, exporting wheat, exporting sugar. Today, they're importing sugar, they're importing wheat, they're importing almost 70% of their pulses and 85% of their edible oils. Food insecurity is going to set in. Their economy has gone down. I'll not talk of where inflation is at about anything. Any day take the newspaper, it is anything from 15 to 25% for the past 1 year, right? Uh, Look at their Pakistan rupee. In 3 days, it had gone from 210 to 228 rupees. 18 rupees or 20 rupees it lost in a matter of 48 hours. Right? That the Karachi Stock Exchange has done a complete nosedive in the past 3 days. Right? No one's investing. All their loans are outstanding. Now, earlier they used to take loans to repay loans. Now they're taking loans to repay interest on the loans taken. So, right, that is where they are. People thought that the CPEC will be their, game changer. Now, CPEC today, and they have something called the circular debt. Despite CPEC, the bulk of the CPEC projects are power plants. Despite power plant that coming in, and these are all at fixed rates. The Chinese have to be paid at fixed rates, irrespective of anything else, for the power they produce. Those they are called independent power producers. Now, all that money, everything they're paying. Despite that, There's load shedding up to 16 hours a day in rural Punjab, rural Pakistan, and up to 8 to 10 hours in cities. So I mean, I leave the rest to you. And look at the TTP. Every day, the Pakistan army loses someone or the other, and the Pakistan army has started talking and negotiating with those people. They're the same people who killed those 200 odd children in that APS. You know, army children. Their complete intelligentsia says, how are you talking to these people? Any deal with the TTP today is ceding Pakistan's sovereignty in perpetuity. And the TTP is being supported by Afghanistan, whom these people have gone and put in power. The same Taliban who they put in power is supporting TTP against Pakistan. That's where it is. So I think they're in a very dismal state. That's why I wrote that article called Wolf at the Door. There is a wolf at the door of Pakistan. And if that wolf enters inside, it will eat up Pakistan. And it is not one wolf. There's a military wolf, there's a TTP wolf, there's a IMF wolf, there's an economic wolf, and there's a political wolf. I don't know which wolf will go where and eat whom. All I can say is all the best.
General Ravi Shankar, I have a scary question to ask you, but I need to ask you this question. Um, the dams have not been desilted in a long time in Pakistan. Therefore, their capacity, even if there is good monsoon, to store the water is very, very limited. Does the IMF loan specify that some amount of that has to go to desilt their dam? Because their economy is agrarian economy, and if you can't get the fundamentals right, how do you explain? I mean, how do you expect? How does IMF expect to recover its loan?
That won't happen. That's not part of the story. That's not part of the deal. The entire water of Pakistan is under a World Bank aid system. It's not nothing to do with. So IMF will not touch that. Right? And what's more, there's a problem in this if they spend money. The Pakistanis went and started the Diamar Basha Dam, which is in Gilgit-Baltistan with the Chinese help. Now, when that dam was, the foundation stone for the dam was laid, Imran Khan and all these people went and opened. Even this chap, the present chief was also there when the foundation stone was laid. Chinese people were there and all that. At that time, the World Bank said, you cannot do this. If you want to start this dam, please take a NOC from India because this is disputed territory. Right? World Bank has said this. These people still have gone ahead with the Chinese help. So, in this kind of a dispute, neither the IMF nor the World Bank will allow any money to be diverted into their water system. So, they're in a problem.
General Ravi Shankar, you kind of led me to my next question. That is, right now, India is allowing excess water to go to Pakistan, whereas India could, implement the Indus River Treaty to the letter in word and spirit. Why is India not taking this step? Because there is always infiltration, there is always irritation.
I agree with you. We have to do that, but you can't do it overnight. We have our own domestic politics. See, the whole thing is you transfer from all the rivers. Firstly, you have to build a transfer system as per the Indus Water Treaty. That means whole lot of canals have to come in. Then, even if you transfer the water from the from Indus, let's say from the Indus in Ladakh, you get it down to Punjab. Right? What do you do with that water? The water surplus will become surplus to Punjab and the area in between. So you have to transfer it to Haryana and you have
Rajasthan
to transfer
and so on. Rajasthan can take it up, sir. Yeah.
No. Rajasthan anyway has, as of now, you have the Indira Gandhi canal, so that's not a problem. It has to be transferred to Haryana. That is why you had that SYL, Satluj Yamuna link. You have to do a inter-basin transfer from the Indus basin to the Gangetic basin. Now that has been cancelled because of Punjab. The land which was acquired by for the Satluj Yamuna link has been given back to the farmers. So there are internal politics. Unless we finish the internal politics, getting water down from the Indus Ravi, Chanab, Jhelum is all a pipe dream. So we have to have our politics and our things, and we have to put money into it to get it. So this is more of hype that will stop water going into Indus and all is political hype. Let's be very clear. There's no plan on ground in the government of India.
Really unfortunate because the southern part of India could do with a lot of the water. If you think
No,
about,
I agree with you completely. We need look. It's not that we are very far. It's not. We are not very far away from Pakistan as far as water distress and water scarcity is concerned. If we don't mind, if we don't harness our water systems, we are in a problem. If we don't get the Gangetic Plain water down to South India, we have 2 3 plants. We are in a problem. I think it lacks political vision. It needs political vision to get all that do. You need political consensus to get that water down. But then that water has to ultimately come from Indus, so you have to do the inter-transfer basin and then Gangetic Plain to the Kaveri basin or Krishna basin, Krishna Godavari basin. So it's a long-drawn process. I don't think. Let's be very clear. Let's get back to Pakistan.
yes, 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 that's fine, sir. I think we kind of touched upon a few things. This is the thing I like about my conversations with you, General Ravi Shankar. I can ask you any question and you have the right answer. So
No, it's not the right
let's
answer. It's
hear
just
both there.
no, I'm okay. Yeah.
I think we're done with the main part of our talk today. We can take some questions now,
Yeah.
and the good general will answer them as long as they're on topic. Like he said, talk about Pakistan. We'll be able to answer those questions. Go ahead. First question from Mr. Lee. What is the view of Iran on the issue of Balochistan, considering that the eastern parts of Iran are also populated by Balochis?
Yeah, that's a very genuine question. There's an area called the Sistan Balochistan, which is in Iran, where there are Balochis. There are also Balochis in Afghanistan. It's not as if this thing. But Iran wants to keep this border secure with Pakistan. They don't want to start this because they want their focus is Saudi Arabia. Their focus is Israel. And with Israel and with, I mean, you know, their focus is on Israel, and hence they have a common ground with Pakistan to sort out Israel because there's a problem Pakistan has with Israel. We all know that. So, because of these factors, there's not much activity against Pakistan in Sistan Balochistan, and Iran doesn't, you know, help them, and that's quite a underdeveloped part of Iran, where they are worried about issues spilling over from Afghanistan and Pakistan into their area and destabilizing that. So that's why they don't entertain the Baluch freedom fighters or rebels who are against the Pakistan state.
General Ravi Shankar, I'm ignorant about the way Iran is structured. Is it centrally administered, or do they have states and
No, they have
provinces,
states.
provincial governments?
They have states and provinces, but and it's something similar to what we have, but in a different manner. But Balochistan is not a full province.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Girinath Paranjoti wants to know, sir, should you be concerned since unstable Pakistan means refugees influx and thus increase in terrorism, or will Pak no longer be able to afford terrorists and thus decrease in terrorism?
Look, it's a very fair question. I've been asked this question many times. My view is that a Pakistan which is unstable is inward looking. All right. And as far as Pakistan remains inward looking, it will not, you know, be focused on Kashmir and anti-India. It doesn't have the strength. This business of influx of refugees and all won't happen. If they do come, we have a fence, a border fence, and that border fence is quite formidable for the refugees, right? And in any case, the border is a little ahead of the border fence. The border fence is not exactly on the border, so we have adequate depth out there to hold refugees. So that is not a issue. They can't increase terrorism. See, if Pakistan is internally occupied with CP, see every day CP is getting killed. If you see along the Durand line, every day there's some some incident happening where the security forces are losing, they are worried about the TTP, they're worried about the Balochis, they're worried about internal issues, they're worried about many issues which are happening within. There is political instability. Who's got time for Kashmiris? You're even if you have to invest into Kashmir and create instability there, you need money. Where is it? They don't have money to feed. After 1 month, they won't have money for fuel or a thing. They'll almost in a Sri Lanka kind of a situation. I mean, let's put it, they're just about 2 months away from Sri Lanka situation. So, if after this, Pakistan is still worrying about exporting terrorism and fingering JNK, Pakistan won't exist. They'll collapse.
Girinath Paranjoti again, sir. How secure are Pak's nuke warheads and launch platforms, and what will happen in case of a failure of the state?
Yeah, I think that's a very genuine question. Let me put it very clearly. Nothing will happen. Why? One of the complete Pak nuclear warhead launch platforms, everything is in the hands of the army. As far as that is in the hands of the army holds all the aces. Right? If the army has to stay in power in Pakistan, and the army has to be the guarantor of Pakistan's existence, it needs nuclear weapons in its hands. It will not let it go. The day that they loosen that, their power on the whole thing is gone. So I'm not worried about that. The army generals are too shrewd to allow anything like this to happen, unless they are the instigator of nuclear terrorism somewhere else. If they are the instigator of nuclear terrorism, like sending a suitcase bomb across anywhere else as a backpack to a terrorist, that story will come out immediately, right? And then Pakistan has had it. Then no one will let them go. So I leave it at that.
Excuse me. Ritik the Great wants to know, can Islamic radicals in Pakistan overpower Pakistan army after the economy defaults?
This is a great fear which everyone has. I don't think so. You must understand the Pakistan army is a very, very professional army. In fact, I consider Pakistan army is a more professional and a more capable army than the PLA, the Chinese army. Right? They've been in wars. They're uh, operationally better. So, radicalism is not so much today within the Pakistan army to create fissures. And then the generals and the deep state has got a good grip on the army. Like I said, whoever is at the top is very clear that if he has to stay in power, and if our Pakistan army is to, be the one which calls the shots in Pakistan, there is no way these extremists and radicals will take over the army. That I don't see. And they're very pragmatic guys. Huh? I've interacted with some of these generals. They're very pragmatic. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're very dangerous also for that reason.
General Ravi Shankar, my question before we go to the next question is, see, there was a time under 𝙒𝙬𝙬 that the Pakistan army also was being Islamized. In fact, in the 2003-4 series, India saw the spectacle of all the Pakistani cricketers, sitting in the ground and doing namaz and stuff like that they have not seen before. Suddenly they saw all these things. Is the recruitment continuing along the same lines into the Pakistani armed forces?
See, there is no doubt that the Pakistan armed forces are more radicalized, more Islamized. I wouldn't say radicalized, more Islamized than
Yeah, Islamized, right.
right, very Islamized. There might be a few radicals also. I don't know. Let's not count them out. They're not saints. But their binding force is a fact that they need power. If they have to be a power within Pakistan, there is no room for radicalism, especially today, right? Especially when they don't have funds. And Pakistan, and they have businesses, they have to sustain themselves, right? They have to enrich themselves. You see, the quality of life between a Pakistani general and an Indian general It's it's not a difference of 1920. It's a difference of 0 and 20. Right? They live in some astronomical world. Okay, of money. And privileges. So will they let all this go? Let's be very clear. They won't. They're powerful enough to hold all this off. So I don't see that problem. And they'll use Islamization to have a complete anti-India orientation. Whatever is not India is Pakistan. And they have this thirst for revenge against India. After all, someone called the Pakistan army as the most professional army which has never won a war. And the fact that they've been defeated repeatedly by India, uh, it pains them. And that holds them together. So they'll use that Islamization to good effect against India.
Next question, please. Divyan Singh wants to know, can we talk of the economic crisis with reference to the WEEP analysis by 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙤 Devashar? Is Pakistan sustainable? $40 billion for 1 year interest payment. What about the next years to come?
Well, thanks for this question, but I have not heard this analysis by Tilak Devashir. I mean, maybe I have not read it, I have not come across it.
Actually, Tilak
Uh,
had come on our channel to talk about this
yeah,
a little bit.
Maharashtra.
I'll send you the link. Yeah.
No, fine, that's okay. But let's put it this way. I told you in the beginning, Pakistan has come to a stage where they're taking, see, like I said, initially they were taking loans to repay loans. Now they're taking loans to repay the interest on the loans. They are in that. It's not sustainable. Everyone knows that. All the loans which you hear of, Saudi Arabia giving, China giving, and all, is only loans for their own loans to keep those loans rolling over, right? And China is in this great predicament, not only with Pakistan, with all over the world, where they have only a set of bad loans and they give loans, right? Only to show that the interest is at least is being paid back. Okay, so their sustainability on financial sustainability at this point of time is almost zero. It is only this injunction from IMF which will give them liquidity to buy a few items and all that, and maybe kickstart their economy. Which, if the political system, thing goes like this, that will also not happen. Like we discussed, whatever 1.3, 1.4, 1.7 billions comes in, maybe for 2 months, 3 months, and after that they're going to stare down the barrel. And at that time, it'll be worse because the IMF will not give them a loan again.
Next question, please. Why doesn't Iran do rupee payment agreements for crude oil imports with Pakistan just like they do with India? Wouldn't that help with Pakistan's forex crisis?
I don't think Iran would like to do that also. Today, Pakistan rupee is completely short. Who will want to hold Pakistan rupees? It's the first point. So I think this will not. Right? And Iran is too shrewd. It knows where to keep Pakistan at which level.
And Prakash Prabhu wants to know, the West is moving to help Pakistan economically. Case in point being, Pakistan being moved out of FAT F grey list and IMF bailout agreed. Is the West trying to punish India for not taking anti-Russia stand? I
No,
don't think.
I don't think this is this premise itself. I think is little uh, not on reality. They're not off the FATF grey list. The FATF has said after we do inspection, then we will take you off the grey list. That inspection has not happened. The inspection is going to be pretty tough. Okay, it's not going to be easy. And IMF bailout also is very conditional. IMF bailout has got very strict and stringent conditions. Right? If that doesn't take place, they'll pull out. And if you see, just few days back, they had a discussion with the US officials. The US officials said, "Yeah, we'll celebrate our 75 years of cooperation and all that, and we'll cut a cake, and that's the end of the story." Nothing. No, not a single naya paisa is coming from anyone. No country has said we will give you anything. There's no investment, nothing. So I don't think the whole premise is not this thing. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Mr. Lee wants to know what would it take for the US to remove Pakistan from its current status of major non-NATO ally?
Well, I think it's already done. They might call them. Have you? I've not seen ever since that Afghanistan, after US withdrew from Afghanistan, anyone calling Pakistan a non-NATO ally. In fact, I think the Americans are onto something very, very, very fundamental, and they're going to put Pakistan in their place. See, one point I'd like to say, put across. Uh, the you know, I think Pakistan is being left to its dangle on its own. So we'll leave it at that.
Next question, Harsha. Last two,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, fine, no
Harsha
problem.
wants to know, sir, what is the status of ramjet-based artillery shell project at IIT Madras? Did it get funding from government industry? Also, what about the drone project at IIT Madras?
Yeah, we've got the Ramjet-based RT project is going ahead full steam. We've got funding from the government. We always got funding from the government. The drone project at IITM is also going on. Okay, we're speaking with a lot of people, but we've not got any government funding in the way it should have been given.
Last question now. Indian 109 wants to know how far is it true that the West has allowed the Pakistan to exist and sustain over the past decade?
Oh well, there was a time when it used to be told that Pakistan survives on three A's: Allah, Army, and America. So the funding from the West was something which used to sustain Pakistan economically. If you see in their history, whenever the Americans were giving aid to Pakistan, Pakistan's economy was up. Whenever it was not so, the Pakistan's economy was down. Now, after what has happened in Afghanistan, I don't think America or the West, anyone will come to help them. Far from America and the West, even the Chinese will not be able to help them because they're themselves in a problem. Even the Gulf countries will not be interested. I mean, look, that I2U2 is a reflection of where their things are going, and I2U2 doesn't have scope for Pakistan to enter. So I leave it at that.
True. General Ravi Shankar is always a treat to listen to, and today he was in full flow. Thank you very much, General Ravi Shankar. It was a pleasure hosting you, sir. And viewers, we have some good news. We're going to have the General back probably next week when he finds a time. Most likely, we're going to try next Wednesday, if not possible. I think we'll do it next week sometime. Let me just say that way. And we're going to talk about the one thing that you may all have in your mind about what is happening with Tibet and Ladakh and the LAC. Thank you very much, General Ravi Shankar. And viewers, be back in 15 minutes for the second part of the double header, where we are going to have a discussion with Sri M.R. Venkatesh. Once again, General Ravi Shankar, namaskaram, and thank you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.